welcome back. You're watching the markets at noon on ET. Now, just before the break, of course, we had the Zomato IPO press conference wherein they were sharing details about the company and how essentially they're not just simply a restaurant aggregator, but they are also now big partners with the restaurants themselves, providing them with raw material too, to a very large extent. Let's sort of make sense of everything that was announced in the IPO so far. The introduction of sorts of Zomato. Karan Taurani, the Senior Vice President at Elara Capital, joins us now. Hi, Karan. How have you seen the broadening of the business of Zomato from where it started off earlier to now? We had Mr. Gupta and his team talking about how they are virtually partners with restaurants now. So how do you view this entire business expansion for Zomato? I mean, I just want to ask you this question before we, talk about the IPO and all.
I think the business expansion plan is good, because they are moving more towards backward integration. I think what will happen because of this, as they will kind of be able to strengthen the relationship with the restaurant partners in a more strong manner. But there are, of course, questions in terms of how scalable this model is, in terms of whatever they are doing right now and how much they can actually make out of it. So it's very early days, to actually bet upon that business and to give it a separate kind of valuation, so to say. I think it's a food delivery business, which remains to be a core offering, and that will be valued in a very big way.
These kind of IPOs would be called as fancy IPOs in the market. How would you approach for valuation? I mean, there is a cash burn to attach to it. We all know it. What is the sense that you get?
If you look at the valuations, I think, firstly, the valuations are slightly, at the upper end, in my view, primarily here. And what has happened here is that if you look at the internet companies, typically, I think you should look at these companies from a 5-year horizon rather than just a 1-year horizon. Because if you look at the revenue growth rate of these companies, most of these companies are firstly, valued, basis revenue, because they don't make profitability in the starting 5 to 10 years of gestation time. So if you're getting a CAGR of about 20% for the next 5 years in terms of return potential, in terms of valuation, then it looks attractive. But given the kind of valuations they are commanding, if you peg their valuations of about $8.5 billion roughly, and if you peg that to a 5-year forward revenue, the kind of potential upside from this current valuation is not more than 50% which is about 8.5% kind of a CAGR. So it's not very attractive, I would say, given the kind of valuations they have. But of course, there are triggers here as well. So there are chances for upgrades in terms of revenue growth rate for the new business expansion, whatever they are planning. They've also kind of invested some money into growers. And if that kind of ramps up and works in their favors, the growth rates could really intensify from a 25% assumption right now towards even a 40% kind of a number. So if they were to, kind of diversify from food delivery in a very big way, and if the other businesses kind of kick in well as per expectations, the valuation multiples could also get a re-rating basis that.
Right. Just in terms of the benchmark valuation, have you done any global valuation? What does it essentially point out to? And how would you actually value it? Because growth rates are completely different.
So if you look at the valuations, as per global benchmarking, the global averages stand at almost about in a wide range of about 4 to 8 times on an EV sales basis 1 year forward. Now, if you look at Zomato on a 1 year forward EV sales, if you look at FY24 for that matter, they are roughly coming at about 11 to 12 times EV sales already, right? So there is already a scarcity premium of almost 40% attached, versus the global players. And a good part of the scarcity premium is kind of justified in my view, because clearly the market is underpenetrated. The growth rates are much higher as compared to global markets. You are going to see increased frequency in the metro cities. So there, if you typically look at the numbers, the frequency in terms of, per month ordering is about 10 to 12. India, we are still at almost 4.5 orders per month as far as the metro cities are concerned. So the scope of growth in terms of, the metro cities, increased frequency in terms of ordering, and the tier 2, tier 3 cities in terms of, fresh users being added, and of course, increased frequency there as well. So the growth rates, of course, are at a premium, and that is something which, which is clearly justified. But And that's the reason for this entire scarcity premium. But also there are two more things which are there for which will kind of keep the valuations under check. One, in my view, is a market structure. So as I've been pointing out that if at all there is a large scalable player who enters this market, that can be very disruptive in nature, because your take rates can actually go down because of that. Your discounting again can increase somewhat, to kind of retain your current user base. So market structure is something, which is a very big, so to say, a caveat or risk in my view here. And the second risk, I think, is profitability. So I think the street will really monitor in terms of how is Zomato able to make profits over the next 3 years, 5 years. What exactly is the plan over there? Because clearly, if you want to increase frequency in a country like India, which is very value centric, you also have to give cheap discounting. So how are they able to actually grow faster, versus the global players? How are they kind of able to kind of increase the revenue growth rate, increase the ordering frequency without giving higher discounts? So these are two risks in my view, which will be monitored, to keep valuations under check.
But I think so far Zomato seems to have done a good job in terms of preserving its market share. We have seen a player, we've seen Uber Eats attempt to enter the Indian markets, but they've not really been able to attain the kind of scalability that Zomato did. So for now, they've managed to create a decent moat, I suppose, for themselves in terms of market share. I think what will be key now is, when are they able to turn around? When are they able to turn to the black, because they are right now posting an EBITDA loss. But I suppose, like Karan as well said, the growth potential is enormous for Zomato. Right now, it's only a food aggregator. There's nothing stopping them from, looking at delivery of other items as well. So this is going to be a very, very watched out for IPO. Karan, thank you so much for joining us today on ET Now and analyzing Zomato for our viewers.